Hello everyone! Today we'll discuss a bit of English literature's historical background and literary periods. And just like some of my other topics, I got the notes and lessons from that of my college subject on English literature. So we begin with the many invaders of England. In this aspect, it's pretty similar to what our own country went through, being colonized by a few empires. In England's case, they were invaded by groups, namely Celts, Romans, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans. The first group of invaders were the Celts. The word came from the Greek word keltoi, meaning barbarian. According to Merriam-Webster, Celtic refers to Irish culture and heritage along with the historical people who migrated from the British Isles throughout much of Europe. The Celtic pronunciation reflects its Greek and Latin origin, and the Celtic pronunciation is usually reserved for sports teams now, like the Boston Celtics. Like when companies or groups want to reserve all rights to their names, it's like a trademark. The Celts were classified into two. They are the Goidels and the Cymri. The Goidels, or the Gaels, stayed for a short time in the English Isles but eventually went to Ireland, while the Cymri, or more popularly known as the Britons, stayed in the English Isles and named the island with their tribe. That's why it's now called Britain or Great Britain. Next are the Romans. We know them, they're quite popular. They ruled the Isles but were later thrown by the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons, they are seafaring men. They have Germanic groups, the Angles, Jutes, and the Saxons, not like the Jutes that, I know what you're thinking. They are from Norway and Sweden. They stayed in the Isles and named it Angleland and later became England. Angleland, England, that's it. Next are the Normans, Norse men. They came from the north, part France, part Norse, and they are French speaking. What we are seeing right now is a photo of a popular English landmark called the Stonehenge. It is located at Salisbury Plains, England, what the Celts made, but historians suggest that they came before the Celts arrived, and its purpose continues to be a mystery. It's popular not only because it's cool, but also because of the many mysteries that lie behind its existence, like how it was built, how the stones were transported with limited forms of transportation, plus the stones are huge, so how they were transported and who did it were legit concerns. Anyway, I tried reading stuff about it before. It was one of my childhood dreams to be an archaeologist. I know, who knew, right? I disliked the history subject because of the many quote-unquote irrelevant stuff you had to memorize then, but reading about stuff like the Stonehenge is a real mystery case to solve. Sherlock Holmes, that you? If you're interested, try researching about it instead of, spending time with TikTok. Seriously? Now let's talk geography with the divisions of Great Britain and United Kingdom. Great Britain consists of England, Scotland, and Wales, while Great Britain plus Ireland is the United Kingdom. Now we proceed to the literary periods of English literature. The first is the Old English period, or the Dark Ages. During this time, not much of literary works were produced, and schools did not flourish. There was too much bloodshed and war, so how can you write? The next is the Anglo-Saxon period from AD 449 to 1066. This period brought a rich tradition of oral literature steeped in their customs and beliefs. Significant literary genres for this period include chronicles, formulaic or ritualistic poetry, and epic poems. An example for this is the epic Beowulf. Beowulf is the national epic of the Anglo-Saxons. It tells how a great hero, Beowulf, slew monsters in defense of his fellow men and lived a life of honesty and nobility, till he fell a victim to the rage of a fire-breathing dragon. A link to the ebook for this literary piece can be found on the LMS, so you may check that out. The next period is the medieval period from 1066 to 1485. During this period, the church is the chief institution, and from being barbaric, people have become educated. It is also during this period where stories of knights, kings, queens, and princesses flourished. Significant literary works in this period include the elegy, religious liturgy, narrative romance, and Arthurian romance. Examples of this include the Canterbury Tales, King Arthur, and Robin Hood. The romances here do not really mean people are always kissing each other or are engaged in sexual exploits, but rather romances mean medieval stories such as Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And in this slide, we are given here a comparison of the romances of England and France. So in England, the knights are called knights, and in France, they're called paladins. For the story of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, we have the Excalibur for England, and for France, it's called the Durandal. And of course, the protagonist for England is Arthur, and for France, it's Charlemagne. The next period is the Elizabethan period from 1485 to 1625. At the dusk of the Middle Ages and the dawn of the modern world comes the Renaissance. This is also another term for the Elizabethan period. This is the time when Elizabeth I reigned in England. She is considered the Virgin Queen. She's a Tudor, but that does not mean that she is virgin. She's just a queen without a husband. So she was called the Virgin Queen. The Elizabethan period is also called the 16th century period. Songwriters, dramatists, poets, and sonneteers flourished during this period, the time when England became the center of literary works, and historians dubbed this as the most splendid period in the history of literature. The literary works that flourished during the Elizabethan period are the sonnet, Elizabethan lyric, Elizabethan drama, and historical play. Examples are The Passionate Shepherd to His Love and The Nymph's Reply. Next is the Puritan period from 1625 to 1700. Significant literary genres during this period are Restoration comedy and tragedy, metaphysical poetry, light prose, ode, and elegy. The Classicism period is from 1700 to 1800. Significant literary genres during this time were the opera, ballad opera, pantomime, and prose tragedy. Sample literary works that flourished during this time were The London Merchant, Conscious Lovers, and The Tragedy of Jane Shore. You may also research on these literary pieces so that you'll be informed. Next is the Romantic period from 1800 to 1839. The golden age of the lyric poetry belonged to the youth during this period. Early 19th century Britain was stirred by new feelings about the world of nature, about both personal and political liberty, and about the common aim. Significant genres include heroic couplets and historical novels. Examples of these are Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, and Persuasion by Jane Austen. The Victorian period from 1837 to 1900 was named after Queen Victoria I of England in 1817. Similar to the Elizabethan period, the Victorian age was one of the energetic expansion, imperial ambition, and profound optimism about the future of England and mankind. Significant genres during this time include novels, magazine serials, and dramatic monologue, and works such as Great Expectations by Charles Dickens and Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte became popular. The last is the 20th century or the modern period. The literature of this period exemplifies the improved crafts of masters. Sample works include The Egoist by George Meredith and To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a lovely day.